Welcome to DC Direct. I'm Lionel Donovan. Here in this show, we try to talk about some of the bigger stories in the news, but we want you to weigh in. So follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube at TRT World, and use the hashtag DC Direct to be a part of the conversation. In today's show, we'll be talking about NATO's impact on the world.
Ich bin ein Berliner.
Congratulations.
Ana Maria Gower knows all too well how NATO can affect a person. In 1999, NATO forces bombed Belgrade, Serbia. Ana was in the city when the bombs fell.
I was 10 years old when the war started. I wasn't really aware what war is at that age or what can happen. But my grandmother was with me. She brought me up. What I've seen firsthand, and war is never the answer. No war is a good war. And dropping bombs and depleted uranium, 15 tons of it, on innocent civilians is never a good cause, whatever it is. Innocent people don't deserve to die, and innocent lives are destroyed.
In 1949, 12 nations came together to form the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, or NATO. 70 years later, the organization not only expanded its membership to 29 countries, they spend almost $1 trillion on defense. NATO was initially deemed necessary as a safeguard against Soviet invasion. But what is the organization's main objective these days?
The answer is complex, so let's take a look at perspectives from both sides.
In a post-Cold War era, why do we still need NATO?
The fact is we have a continuing aggressive Russia. They have gone into the Ukraine, they've threatened the Baltics, they're inside Syria right now. What NATO can do is constrain the aggressive expansionist intentions and aspirations of Putin's Russia. So that's what NATO does. They defend the territory of the NATO members, the club, they take care of each other, but they also check the aggressive intentions of countries such as Russia.
Greta Zorra, however, believes the organization has strayed from its original intentions.
There's sort of this underlying myth that NATO is a peacekeeping organization. And in fact, NATO has caused a lot of wars. NATO is participating in bombing countries, including Yugoslavia and Kosovo and Afghanistan, and the list goes on and on. NATO has violated international law. It has used military force without the approval of the UN Security Council. It has caused billions of dollars of destruction. And so really, whatever its supposed purpose was back in 1949, that's not what we're seeing now.
NATO members represent the largest and strongest armed forces in the world. Why is there a need for all that military strength?
The NATO member countries constitute 3/4 of all military spending and weapons stockpiling around the world. So that's $1.5 trillion a year that NATO member countries are spending on defense military spending. And so again, one of our biggest points is this is causing enormous harm, enormous environmental damage, destruction of life and property. Imagine if we diverted that money to other needs.
Mark says the expense is justified, given the threats NATO members face.
NATO, like all countries, have not only a responsibility, but a right to defend their own territory. You take a look at the very aggressive operations of Russia right now, what they've done in Ukraine and they've done in other countries. This notion that everybody's at peace and why do we need to have large defense budgets is silly. I would argue that NATO, by acting as an alliance, actually efficiently spends money rather than have 26 countries trying to promote their own defense. By combining these forces into a NATO alliance, they actually can reduce some money. The spending would be higher without NATO.
The world looks like a very different place today than when NATO was first founded. So how will the international organization respond to these changes?
So now that there are legitimate alternatives like China and Russia that countries can go to as opposed to just the U.S., do you think that's going to affect NATO's standing in the world?
I hope so, and I think so. And even if it doesn't destroy NATO or anything, just a way of restoring the balance. With Libya, they went essentially right in. There was, they built the resistance on the ground and everything, but then when they could, they took that chance and they just destroyed that country. And at that time, China and Russia, they were players, but they've got some stronger relationships now. And it's 7 years, 8 years later of investment, development these countries have done all over the world. I think providing this alternative, it is a good thing in a way of at least restoring some balance of power so the U.S. and NATO can't just exact their will, their agenda at will.
NATO has proven itself over the last 70 years. As long as we have good people with good intentions and a need for security architecture like NATO, I hope to see it and my grandchildren seeing it 70 years from now.
Although opinions and perspectives on NATO vary, there's no denying its direct impact on people, communities, and innocent lives.
War is never the answer, and NATO is definitely not the answer. You can't kill innocent people. I will never forget the feeling when I got that I was going to die. I will never forget that night I actually thought I was going to die. It was with my grandmother in middle open field, and bombs were dropping everywhere. And I was a 10-year-old. I didn't deserve to see that, or anybody else. What a 10-year-old has to do with anything, with politics or war or nothing. But lives, innocent lives, are the ones who get destroyed forever. And we have to live with it, not them.
Well, that's all the time we have today in DC Direct, but please be sure to follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube at TRT World, and use the hashtag DC Direct to let us know what you think about the global impact of NATO. Until next time, I'm Lionel Donovan.